period of prolonged success, WWE began experiencing a downturn in their fortunes in 2001. The Attitude Era was coming to an end, and on top of that, WWE lost its primary competitors as both ECW and then WCW went out of business. While that should have been cause for celebration, it also meant that WWE became a monopoly and had no real reason to strive to better themselves in order to stay ahead of their rivals, even if they had been top dog for some time at that point. The upshot was that WWE acquired the contracts of several new talents, leading to a cramped locker room and the ill-advised and poorly handled invasion. Outside of all that, WWE had plenty of other obstacles to overcome, such as major injuries to the likes of Triple H and Chris Benoit, The Rock being courted by Hollywood, and Steve Austin struggling to replicate his babyface success as a heel. Oh, and by the way, did I mention the XFL? It wasn't all bad news, of course. The company was still plenty profitable and popular, and there was a new crop of performers ready and willing to step up. Kurt Angle and Chris Jericho, as well as new acquisitions Booker T and Rob Van Dam, all had great years in the ring. But how did all this translate when it came time for the big shows? I'm Adam Pacitti from Cultaholic.com, and this is every WWE pay-per-view of 2001 ranked from worst to best. Join us. Number 14, Insurrection. Not as terrible as some of the WWE UK exclusive pay-per-views that us long-suffering Brits have been treated to over the years, Insurrection was nonetheless a forgettable show with only one real pay-per-view quality match. The show started with a routine win for Eddie Guerrero in a short match with Grandmaster Sexay. That was followed by the Hollies losing to Dean Malenko and Perry Saturn in another short, okay-ish contest. Bradshaw beat Big Show in a few minutes just to show you where the world's largest athlete stood in the company during this period. Edge and Christian survived a 4-team elimination match, also featuring X Factor, the Hardys, and the Dudleys. Decent enough, but nothing fans hadn't seen 150 times before or after. In the best bout of the night, Benoit beat Kurt Angle 2 falls to 0 in their 2 out of 3 falls match. Chris Jericho beat William Regal in a long Queen's Cup match. Considering who was involved, the expectation is that this would be better than it really is. And in the main event, The Undertaker beat the 2-man Power Trip in a handicap WWE title match, but didn't win the title because he pinned the game instead of Stone Cold. Number 13, Invasion. A major pay-per-view pitting the invading forces of ECW and WCW against WWE should have been an amazing must-see event of the highest caliber. That such a show was, in fact, the second poorest of the year should just about tell you how it went. Those expecting Goldberg, Sting, and Hulk Hogan instead were met with Hugh Morris, Lance Storm, and a bunch of guys and gals who were already conveniently signed to WWE deals before the angle and were able to simply switch sides. There were a few bright spots, and the show made WWE a massive amount of money, and isn't that always cause for celebration? But on the whole, it has to rank as a major disappointment. One of the highlights was the show-closing inaugural brawl, where the alliance squad of Booker T, DDP, the Dudleys, and Rhino beat the WWE team of Steve Austin, The Undertaker, Kane, Kurt Angle, and Chris Jericho, thanks to another heel turn from that no-good Texas Rattlesnake. In the other worthwhile match, Rob Van Dam beat Jeff Hardy to win the Hardcore title in an arena-wide show stealer stuffed with inventive moves and sequences. In other matches, Edge and Christian beat Lance Storm and Mike Awesome, Earl Hebner beat Nick Patrick, the APA beat the Power Plant out of Chuck Palumbo and Sean O'Haire, Raven bested William Regal, Sean Stasiak, Hugh Morris, and Canyon eked out a narrow win over Albert, Billy Gunn, and Big Show, Tajiri beat Taz, and Trish Stratus and Lita got the better of Tori Wilson and Stacy Keibler in the usual clothes-ripping classic. I'm sure Mick Foley, serving as special guest referee, had a nice day. Number 12, Judgment Day. Judgment Day 2001 was, like Insurrection, stolen by Kurt Angle and Chris Benoit. Taking their 2 out of 3 falls game to a new level, the Olympic Hero and the Rabid Wolverine assembled an exceptional 3 stages of hell match with Angle's gold medals on the line. Benoit won the first fall in short order, pinning Angle with an Angle Slam, oh the bitter irony, before Angle leveled up by making his foe tap to the ankle lock. The contest was settled in a ladder match, won by Angle thanks to interference from Edge and Christian. But that wouldn't be the end of the Canadian Crippler's night, as he returned later in the show teaming up with Chris Jericho to win a Tag Team Turmoil #1 contenders match, last beating Ian C. There was a distinct move to push newer, perhaps less proven talent like Benoit and Jericho around this time, but the old guard still populated the main matches. In one, Kane beat Triple H in a decent chain match to win the Intercontinental title. Big pop for the Big Red Machine for that one. And in the main event, Steve Austin retained the WWE title against The Undertaker in a dramatic brawl. Elsewhere on the show, Commissioner Regal got past Rikishi, but couldn't avoid an encounter with a whole lot of Samoan backside in a fun opener. Rhino continued his impressive run by beating Big Show and Test in a good hardcore title match, and Chyna retained her women's title in her last ever WWE match, beating Lita in what was supposed to be the first in a series between the two. Number 11, Unforgiven. Come September, the Invasion storyline was already starting to peter out somewhat, with the whole thing basically being WWE versus WWE with a few ex-WCW and ECW wrestlers, at least the ones who hadn't been shipped off to developmental, sprinkled in. Unforgiven certainly wasn't a bad show or anything, but once again, outside of one or two matches, you would struggle to remember anything from the card. In the show closer, hometown boy Kurt Angle beat Steve Austin to win the WWE title in a great moment designed to lift spirits 12 days after the tragic events of 9/11. Really, there was no other possible result here. In other big matches, The Rock retained the WCW World Heavyweight title by beating Booker T and Shane McMahon in an entertaining handicap match. And Rob Van Dam triumphed over Chris Jericho in their well-worked hardcore title match. Elsewhere, the Dudleys retained the WWE tag titles in a serviceable 14 match. Perry Saturn avenged the death of Moppy by pinning Raven. Christian won his first Intercontinental title by beating Edge in a bit of a disappointing match. The Undertaker and Kane would have settled for disappointing after having one of the worst matches of the year with Chronic, who were promptly sent packing after their pathetic performance here. And Rhino gored Tajiri to win the WCW United States title. Number 10, Backlash. Backlash 2001 was the start of the ultimately short era of the two-man power trip. Steve Austin and Triple H had joined forces in the wake of WrestleMania 17 and went into Backlash holding the WWE and Intercontinental titles while gunning for the tag straps held by the Brothers of Destruction. Austin, Triple H, Undertaker and Kane in a winner-take-all tag match is like some sort of Attitude Era wet dream, and the action was good, if not a little long-winded. In the end, the heels walked out with the gold. Elsewhere on the show, Rhino beat Raven in a really good hardcore title match that was probably the highlight of Scott Levy's WWE tenure. Chris Benoit beat Kurt Angle in sudden death overtime in their Ultimate Submission, 30-minute submission-only Iron Man match. A novel concept that really ought to be revived for the modern era, it was not without its faults, but the work was pretty damn solid and unlike anything else on WWE television at the time. William Regal won a balmy Duchess of Queensberry rules match with Chris Jericho. The stipulation's silliness sort of overshadowed the wrestling at times, but it was a good scrap in the end. Matt Hardy retained his European title in a fun and energetic triple threat match, also featuring Christian and Eddie Guerrero. X Factor beat the Dudleys in a spirited six-man opener, and Shane McMahon did Shane McMahon things, jumping off something really tall to win his repetitive last man standing match with The Big Show. Number 9, Rebellion. A much better effort than Insurrection earlier in the year, Rebellion was a fine pay-per-view with a genuine top-class main event. In it, Steve Austin retained his WWE title by beating The Rock in a long and typically excellent match that featured no shortage of effort and had all the bells and whistles and anarchy that typified WWE at the time. More stellar graps came courtesy of Chris Jericho and Kurt Angle, who were also alright, I suppose, battling it out over the WCW title. The rest of the card was decent enough, but even if it was total rubbish, the show would still be worth it for those two title matches alone. In the opener, Edge retained the Intercontinental title in a solid but unspectacular cage match against Christian. Scotty 2 Hotty beat the Hurricane in fine cruiserweight competition. The Big Show, destroyed Diamond Dallas Page. Hell of a year for everyone's favorite yoga dad this was. The Dudleys beat the APA and the Hardys in another of those multi-team elimination deals. It was good, but it was also clear that WWE desperately needed to freshen up their doubles division at this point. William Regal beat Tajiri but was besmirched with green mist, and Lita and Tori beat Stacy and Molly. Number 8, Vengeance. The Invasion was done and dusted by the time Vengeance rolled around in December, but there was a need to tie up some loose ends from the angle, namely crowning an undisputed champion. In a mini-tournament, The Rock, Steve Austin, Kurt Angle and Chris Jericho clashed for the chance to become the first undisputed champion in WWE history. Austin beat Angle and Jericho beat Rock in two good matches, setting up a Jericho vs. Austin final. Against all odds, Y2J walked out as champ, becoming the only person in history to beat the two biggest stars in the business on the same night. It was a hell of a way to end the last pay-per-view of the year, which had been an entertaining one up to that point. In other highlights, Rob Van Dam continued to enhance his reputation, though he relinquished the hardcore title to The Undertaker in a pleasant clash of styles. Edge retained the IC title in a competitive match with William Regal, Jeff Hardy beat Matt Hardy with Lita acting as special referee. These two have had much better matches against each other over the years, but the lack of quality could be explained by Matt fighting a nasty bout of food poisoning going into it. The Dudleys, Big Show and Kane unfortunately didn't have the same excuse. Their tag team title match was just bad, and nobody, at least to my knowledge, ate a dodgy burrito or anything beforehand. In other matches, Scotty 2 Hotty and Albert, yes, that was a tag team for a bit, beat Christian and Test in a fair opener, and Trish Stratus continued her evolution as an actual wrestler by beating Jacqueline and retaining her women's title. Number 7, King of the Ring. The King of the Ring saw a WWE in transition. As top star Triple H was on the shelf, WWE champion Steve Austin was floundering as a bad guy, and the invasion not yet in full swing. In the show's main event, the Bionic Redneck retained his title in a triple threat with Chris's Jericho and Benoit, a technically good match with a unique dynamic that turned out to be the straw that broke the camel's back, or the Wolverine's neck. Benoit would require major neck surgery and miss a year of action in the aftermath. In the King of the Ring tournament, Edge, a man WWE clearly saw as a future single star, won by beating Rhino and then Kurt Angle, who had beaten Christian earlier. Though he won the thing, it was actually his opponent in the final who was the star of the show, as he came back out later in the evening to beat Shane McMahon in a brutal street fight, remembered for the boss's son being thrown through some glass on the 23rd attempt. Elsewhere, Jeff Hardy retained the light heavyweight title in a spirited match with X-Pac, the Dudleys retained their tag titles against the eclectic team of Kane and Spike Dudley, and DDP, having recently been revealed as the stalker of Undertaker's wife Sarah, got absolutely smashed on his first night in, setting the tone for the invasion that was to follow. Number 6, Survivor Series. And so it came to this, the end of the invasion. Again, by this point, the angle was pretty much WWE versus WWE and a few of their mates, and it was definitely time to put it to bed. The only question was, who would win the... oh man, who would win? Good one. Obviously, the WWE came out on top. There was never any question of an alternative, but at the very least, the final show in this tale was a choice one. In the main event, Team WWE won the winner-take-all elimination tag match when Angle turned on Austin and joined back up with his old crew. It was a grand match, long and chock full of entertaining action and twists and star power. The rest of the matches were primarily unifying titles and sussing out who was going to have a job when all was said and done. Christian retained his European title in the opener, beating Al Snow in a dependable match. William Regal then beat Tajiri in a match that was good while it lasted, but could have really used more time. WCW US champ Edge beat WWE IC champ Test to unify the belts in a canny match. WCW Tag Champs, the Dudleys, then beat WWE Tag Champs, the Hardys, in a good match when the selfish Jeff missed a big old swanton and crashed through a table. Test sauntered back out to win an immunity battle royal, meaning he couldn't be fired for a year, regardless of the outcome in the main event. My pick, Perry Saturn, was a massive disappointment on the night. And Trish Stratus won her first women's title, which had been vacant since Chyna said goodbye, by beating Lita, Ivory, Mighty Molly, Jacqueline, and a debuting Jazz. Number 5, No Mercy. A pair of sterling main events and a mostly nonsense-free undercard made No Mercy one of the more enjoyable pay-per-views of the invasion. In the show closer, Steve Austin retained his WWE title over Kurt Angle and Rob Van Dam in a triple threat that, on paper, should have been a cluster, but worked very well indeed. The whole effing show was on a serious roll at this point and was one of the sole success stories of the whole invasion. There's a point to be made that they could and perhaps should have switched the strap to him here, at least for the short term, but alas. In the other top match, Chris Jericho beat The Rock to win the WCW title in something of a forgotten classic. It was certainly a timely reminder that Y2J can bring it on the big stage, and it was perhaps this performance here that convinced Vince & Co. to make him the first undisputed champion a couple of months later. Elsewhere, Edge beat Christian to win the Intercontinental title in a ladder match. You would think a match with Edge, Christian, and ladders would be an all-timer, but while good, this one didn't really stand out as special. Still, it's probably better than any ladder match I've had. The Undertaker beat Booker T because the American badass needed to get a win over every member of the Alliance to prove some sort of point. Test fared better against Kane, though neither match was great or anything. This had its moments. The Dudleys defended their tag team titles against Big Show and Tajiri in a shockingly entertaining match. The Hardys' WCW tag title defense against the Hurricane and Lance Storm was also tidy stuff, and Tori Wilson beat Stacy Keibler in a lingerie match. If you like watching gorgeous blondes roll around in their underwear, and I'm assuming a lot of you do, then this is the match for you. Number 4, SummerSlam. SummerSlam 2001 was all about the grand return of The Rock, coming back after a few months away filming a movie. Scorpion something, dunno, probably won't be that big of a hit, doubt WWE have anything to worry about there. Anyway, the Great One was back, challenging Booker T for the WCW title in the main event. Naturally, the People's Champ became the WCW champion, beating the Book with a rock bottom after a really strong match. Best bout of the night honors, however, go to Steve Austin and Kurt Angle, who had a bloody, pulsating WWE title contest for the ages. This one had a bit of everything, from great brawling and wrestling to excellent psychology and character work. It also had a screwy finish, which is a shame, but doesn't put too much of a dampener on things, considering the high standard of what came before it. In other highlights, Rob Van Dam retained the Hardcore title in a thrilling ladder match against Jeff Hardy. As you can probably imagine, neither man held back here. Edge beat Lance Storm to win the Intercontinental title in a back-and-forth opener. Chris Jericho beat Rhino, but the Man-Beast looked good in the loss. If Rhino hadn't went down with a serious neck injury later in the year, there's no telling where he could have ended up. X-Pac beat Tajiri in a nifty Cruiserweight versus Light Heavyweight title match. The Dudleys and Test beat the APA and Spike in a fine bit of filler. And the burial of DDP and Canyon continued as they got absolutely obliterated by the Brothers of Destruction in a one-sided WCW and WWE tag title cage match. Number 3, No Way Out. WWE got it absolutely right on the last stop on the road to WrestleMania, putting on a show that is right up there. The show kicked off with a hardcore title match between Raven and Big Show, which featured interference from mid-card warriors Billy Gunn, Crash and Hardcore Holly, and Steve Blackman. The weapon shots and constant movement made sure that the crowd was awake for what was to follow. Chris Jericho retained the Intercontinental title in an impeccable non-stop four-way with Eddie Guerrero, Chris Benoit, and X-Pac. Not just a series of stunning moves or sequences, these lads really laid it in. What followed was no technical masterpiece, but it was a remarkably good match considering the experience levels of the two people involved. Stephanie McMahon beat Trish Stratus in a red-hot grudge match that probably gave the Office folks a clue that Canada's finest export may have a future between the ropes. Then for something completely different, as Triple H beat Steve Austin 2 falls to 1 in a gripping 3 stages of hell match. Stone Cold won the first fall, wrestling match, but the Cerebral Assassin took falls 2, street fight, and 3 cage to win after an epic 40 minutes of amazing action. Proof, as if it were needed, that they are two of the best ever to lace up a pair of boots. Steven Richards then beat Jerry Lawler in a match that had something to do with the King wanting his shoot wife to walk around the ring naked. Yeah, story checks out. The Dudleys retained their tag team titles in a triple threat table match with the Brothers of Destruction and Edge and Christian, and in the main event, The Rock won the WWE title by beating Kurt Angle in an absolute belter. Far different from the barroom style that had populated main events before, Rock and Angle actually wrestled out there, and the results were impressive, just like this entire show. Number 2, Royal Rumble. You've probably, well, hopefully, sussed out what number 1 is by now. Actually, you probably did when you saw the title of the video, so well done you. The run of Royal Rumble, No Way Out, and WrestleMania X7 are about as good a triumvirate of shows as you're likely to find anywhere. The main draw of the Rumble event is, of course, the titular match, and 2001's was a really strong one, with a few viable winners in the field. The Rumble had several great moments in it, like the surprise appearance of the Honky Tonk Man, a showing from WWE Hall of Famer Drew Carey, Kane's elimination streak, the match going hardcore for a time, the return of the Big Show, the even more surprising return of Haku. It was just superb and really well paced, with no shortage of talking points and a popular winner in Steve Austin, who last eliminated the Big Red Machine to notch a record 3rd Rumble triumph. On the undercard, Triple H and Kurt Angle had a dandy of a WWE title match, especially impressive since it was a rare heel versus heel affair. Angle won a sturdy bout that had interference from Vince, Stephanie, Trish, and Austin. Chris Jericho won the Intercontinental title from Chris Benoit in a hard-fought ladder match that was more about grit and brutality than it was about high spots. Still had plenty of those, mind you. China and Ivory's women's title match barely got going before the 9th wonder of the world was struck with one of the most unconvincing storyline injuries ever, the only real sour note on the show. And the Dudleys won the tag team titles from Edge and Christian in a characteristically good opener. Number 1, WrestleMania X7. Here it is, the best pay-per-view of 2001, one of the best WrestleManias ever, and one of the best wrestling pay-per-views ever for that matter. Seen by some as the end of the Attitude Era, Mania X7 was everything that was good about the era rolled into one tidy package. Was every match a classic? No. Did every match have a reason for existing and add to the show overall? Yes. There was truly something for everyone here, and the event was helped massively by an amazing Houston, Texas crowd. In the opener, Chris Jericho retained his Intercontinental title against William Regal in a short but very good match. The APA and Taz then smashed past the right to center to end that experiment in another short but fun match. Then a bizarre triple threat hardcore title match with Kane, Big Show and Raven scrapping all over the arena before the Devil's favorite demon jumped off the stage and won the gold. Eddie Guerrero then captured the European title from Test in a fair match. Latino Heat's big win was overshadowed by Perry Saturn's even bigger hat, mind you. Kurt Angle beat Chris Benoit in an immaculate pure wrestling match that fans, somewhat surprisingly since pure wrestling wasn't in fashion in this era, really responded to. There was nothing pure about Chyna's women's title victory over Ivory, it was just pure twaddle. Shane and Vince McMahon picked the show right back up with a spectacular street fight that demonstrated the best of sports entertainment shenanigans WWE was so great at. A great ending to a great story. That was followed up with TLC, and bloody hell, this really is a packed show, isn't it? Much like the original, this was a jaw-dropping car crash that, to some, was even better than the first. The gimmick battle royal never pretended to be anything other than a little bit of levity before the two final matches, and comic relief is exactly what it offered. The Undertaker extended his WrestleMania streak in perhaps his best Mania match to that point, beating Triple H. And in the main event, Steve Austin did the unthinkable by aligning with Mr. McMahon in order to beat The Rock and win the WWE title. Was it a mistake? Should Stone Cold have called an audible and nailed a stunner on his boss? Should D'Lo Brown have been there instead of The Rock? Who's to say? But what I will say is that this is a true WrestleMania main event, an amazing battle between two world-class performers with the richest prize in the game on the line. The perfect way to close out a terrific show that still holds up to this very day.